3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Hello and welcome back to the Texas Private School Podcast. As always, I am one half of your hosting crew, Wes Tolleson, calling in from Sunnyvale, Texas. Walker Lott, my other half, joins me from College Station. Walker, I'm kind of surprised either of us are functional enough to move after standing out in the 102-degree heat yesterday, all day on our feet. I mean, props to ourselves. I think we did very well surviving the heat. But, I mean, we had a lot of fun and a lot of really, really interesting things happen watching 7-on-7 yesterday. First of all, how are you doing? Second of all, how are you recovering from the blistering Texas sun?
Oh, it was a fantastic day yesterday. I went home, got a shower, and I sat on the couch and got snow cone. And I think that was a perfect night. Watched the bear. It was a great night. And honestly, like I think, it was so much harder for us than the guys who were playing multiple games. It's just so much more difficult. No, I'm just playing, but yeah, man. Sitting out there, I think I told you, I was like, man, I didn't even play 7-on-7. I'm so happy I'm out of high school, like not doing that no more, because it's tough. And you have to respect all those guys playing like 10 games maybe over 2 days. Like it's impressive.
No, it's ridiculous. Hey, I can say that. I played 7-on-7 both ways too. So when I jab and poke fun and say I was more tired than the guys playing, it's all in jest because I played too. But I must just be getting old, because as tired as I was just standing out there, I can't imagine, number one, how I played in that. Number two, how those kids are playing in that now. And especially the smaller schools where everyone has to go both ways. I mean, I can't give those guys enough props just for how much grit it takes for just 7-on-7. But
it's crazy, like looking back at like high school now, where you're up at 6 a.m. for workouts and you don't go home till like 6 p.m. some days in high school. And like I could not do that nowadays. And you do that 5-6 days a week, or 5 days a week most of the time. Like it's crazy how like you're in high school, it's just like repetition, and then you come to college and it's totally different.
Dude, it was just, I guess it's just normal to you. I had in college, I have 2 classes in one day, and I'm like, man, I'm wiped out. That was a
I know.
tough day. In high school, it's 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. It's just it's a grind. But the kids, again, I can't, like I said, give enough credit to the kids that do that every day. It's really, I think it's overlooked how much goes into that, and the kids that are especially wanted to go do that at the next level. It's just a ton of grit and effort that we saw on display yesterday. Speaking more to yesterday, we're actually going to get into what we saw at 7-on-7, players that stood out to us, which I'm excited about because there were a lot. And then also we're kind of going to compare and contrast what we saw at 7-on-7 this year versus last year. And we actually have some very different storylines and takes regarding those two things. So make sure you stick around because we're going to get into that. Also, if you haven't seen, we actually just posted all of the pictures we took from yesterday. I was talking to Walker and I said for 2 kids that don't really have a ton of background in photography, we've gotten pretty dadgum proficient at taking pictures. And it's one of our favorite things to do. With that being said, we have all the pictures up on the gallery section of our website. It's a pro subscription only, so it's just $5 to access that, and you pay that $5 fee a month. You will have continual access to all those pictures. So number one, do it for that. Number two, it's a great way to support us. It keeps us being able to do what we do already. So please, if you haven't considered subscribing and helping us out. But all of that being said, Walker, we saw some fantastic play yesterday. First of all, Liberty Christian won the whole thing, won the platinum bracket, defeated Regents by 1 point in some very dramatic fashion. Let's just talk a little bit about that game first, since it was the biggest game that we saw, probably the best game I've seen in 7-on-7 in a long time. Who stood out to you, and what'd you take away from that game?
I mean, I think it's the receivers on both sides for sure. And we'll talk about Liberty first. Brandon Janusek and Michael Stump on the outsides for Liberty. I mean, it's probably some of the best 2-man tandem at a receiver position in all of private school. It's disgusting because Stump is such a good receiver. Like he's route running at that size is impressive. And so whenever you need a 5-yard out or just get the guy the ball to get 5 yards, he can always do that for you. And he also can go up and get it, which we saw like yesterday. But then you have Janusik on the other side where, I mean, he can make anything happen. And it's honestly disgusting how much he's able to out of 9 out of 10 times going up and throwing a ball to him, he's going to come down with it. Like, it's just, that's what you know with him. And then you have Quentin Brown in the slot, like there, and then Garnett, the running back on the other side. Like their receiving tandem is going to be so disgusting for this fall. And you saw it in 7-on-7 both days.
No, it's absolutely insane. I was talking to you yesterday and I said, we often forget through the first 6 or 7 games of the season last year, Brady Janusek was the best player in the state, regardless of division. I mean, I remember, because I didn't get a chance to see him in person last year, but I just remember every Sunday and Monday when I'm writing the script for the episodes, I'm just like, look at Liberty. Brady Janusek has like 250 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. And I said it so many times, it almost got boring. But just seeing that kid play in person, you realize why he's doing that, just because of how elite of a level he operates at. I mean, it's incredibly fun to see. I'm going to be in the Metroplex this year actually covering games, so I'll have more of a chance to see him, which I'm very excited about. But yeah, as a former receiver myself, seeing the combo of Janusek and Stump playing outside, which I played, I mean, it's just it's incredible to watch. They're incredible players. I love what they both bring to the table, and also just casually, Quentin Brown, the fastest man in the state, playing slot. I mean, I don't know how you guard that. Liberty is going to be so good this year. And that's not just me talking about 7-on-7 and getting blinded like that, which we might have done last year. No comment regarding that. But Liberty is going to be incredibly solid. I think that just solidified that, what we saw this year at State. Flipping to the other side, Regents, who just as easily could have won this game. They went for the win on a 2-point conversion, missed it by that much. The throw was on the money, just barely outside the receiver's hands. But we saw some very good play from now one of the best recruits in the 26 class, Quinn Murphy, as well as some other players. Walker, Regents had a great showing this year at 7-on-7. What did you take away from them?
Yeah, so Regents kind of lost a pretty big senior class, led by Whitfield Powell and Jackson Smith at the receiver position, and you replace them with their younger brothers who are just as good. Hudson Powell is a guy that I really didn't know much about going into this, and he definitely stood out at 6'6", and pretty much caught anything that came his way the entire 2 days, and it was really, really impressive. And then you could talk more about Blake Smith, the 2026 wide receiver. That, I mean, every time you came and talked to me, he's like, oh, he stood out to me. Like he was so good. So you could talk more about him now. Like, I mean, it was impressive.
Yeah, I was telling you, first of all, I'll preface this by saying his older brother, Jackson Smith, I think I can say for certain is the most underrated player I've seen play in TAPPS. He operates at a level that rarely is seen. The easy cop-out comparison is Cole Beasley, just because short white guy, but he really plays like that. He's electric. And I say that because Blake plays the exact same way. Blake is, if I was drafting a 7-on-7 team, because I've got draft on the brain from our last episode, I think Blake Smith might be the first pick off the board. I mean, he's incredibly fast. He's a great route runner. He catches everything. And for a kid his size, he elevates better than almost anyone I've seen. He goes up and gets it. If you look at the first picture on our slideshow that we posted to socials, he's just absolutely elevating over some kid and just snagging the ball. And he did it several times. He's going to be a great player and a key contributor for Regents this fall, and I'm incredibly excited to see what he brings to the table. And yeah, between him and Hudson Powell, the younger brother of Whitfield, I mean, Hudson 6'6", 6'7", fast too, like 4'8", 4'7", 540. Regents never goes anywhere, but you can say Regents is back. I mean, I know we might have gotten away from that last year at the beginning of the season, saying I think we're quoted as saying St. Michael's might be the best team in Austin, and I'm not going to say that this year. I think Regents has a great chance to make it out of the South, and also we haven't even talked about the best player on that team, Quinn Murphy. I got a chance to catch up with Quinn after one of their first games yesterday, and I will say I was talking to him. And about halfway through the conversation, I realized I'm looking up at Quinn. And I thought back to November, the last time I'd seen him, and I was definitely looking down at him. And I was like, something didn't make sense. And I just asked him, I was like, how much have you grown since the season? And he said, well, at the beginning of the season, I was 5'9", and now I'm 6'2". I can guarantee you that's not an exaggeration because I'm about right at 6 foot and I'm looking up at him. It's crazy how much he's grown. He was recruited a lot based on his arm talent and his ability to make plays, not so much his size at 5'9". Now he's growing into a prospect that you can recruit on the intangibles and his size. I mean, he's going to be fantastic. He's been taking the college tour all spring. I think he's happy to finally, be back around his guys and settle in with them. But Walker, what did you see from Quinn that impressed you yesterday at State?
I mean, the arm talent of course was on display throughout the 2 days. I mean, that's self-explanatory. You can watch some of the throws we got on camera for the last game against Liberty, and it was just easy for him most of the time. But I think also the poise, like he was comfortable out there, and being able to start as a freshman is something that you don't see often at high school level. But he took it and excelled, and made him all the way to the semifinals or the quarterfinals last year.
Mhm.
So I mean, he is going to be the guy for them for the next 3 years, and rightfully so. And he's going to have a lot of attention collegiately, but at this level, being so experienced at such a young age and poised at such a young age is so impressive. And it just speaks to the mentality and the character of the dude, man. And he's going to grow into one of the best quarterbacks in 2026. But seeing him at this age in this class, I mean, it's impressive.
I talked about it with legend Howell, the rising sophomore Bishop Lynch, a couple weeks ago. There is no substitute for experience. And that's something that Quinn Murphy is going to have above pretty much anyone he plays against because of how many games he started as a freshman. And over the course of his career, he'll be more experienced than almost anyone he plays against. And especially at quarterback, I mean, you can tell with the poise that he showed just at 7-on-7, there were opposing coaches commenting on that to me, how poised he looked, even when the coaches and everyone else is getting a little bit flustered. Quinn's there, just settling everyone down. And to see that from someone who just finished his freshman season, it's a scary sight. I mean, Regents always has a great culture to fall back on, but with athletes like Quinn, Hudson, Blake at the helm. Hey, Caesar. Sorry, my cat just walked across the back of the room there. But with all of them at the helm, I mean, I don't know how you bet against Regents going into the season, but we'll see. We'll have our Division II.
Also, having Jacob Wilburn, like, is it going to be a key piece, of course, in that?
I can't believe really quickly. I can't believe I forgot to mention Jacob Wilburn. I forgot to mention him in the draft. I forgot here, so he's going to hate me for that. But go on.
No, yeah, I mean, he is going to be one of the best linebacking prospects in 2024 and one of the best defensive players in 2024, especially next year. He is a guy that played pretty much every game, both sides, the entire 2 days. There was not a time I didn't see him playing both ways. And that just speaks to the character of the kid and of going in there and just doing anything he can for his team. Yeah, it's impressive, man. He's going to be one of the best athletes to watch this year. And if they put him on the receiver side, I don't know if it's just for 7-on-7, but yeah, man, he's going to be really, really impressive this year. And having a leader like that who has also played a lot, at least since his sophomore year for them, a guy who's just such a versatile athlete is going to be huge for them in their wanting to have success this season in the South of Division II.
Absolutely. Something that impressed me was he played with moxie, not a cockiness, not an overt just arrogance, but he played like he knew he was the guy on that defense, and he is. And that's someone that you want at linebacker leading your defense. I really do think Wilburn's going to be a really one of the best, if not the best defensive player in the South this upcoming year. All respect to Max Granville, Ivan Jimmy Ducksworth, and all of them, but they're between all of those guys, the South is loaded with defensive talent. I'm very excited to see how all that plays out. But I know we talked at length about good quarterback play. Let's actually, I want to go back to Liberty really quickly because this is a point I wanted to make. Liberty's in an interesting situation where they're still, first of all, they have a wealth of riches at quarterback. They've got Cole Welliver and Hogan Nelson. Cole Welliver, the recent UConn commit, and Hogan Nelson are offensive player of the year last year in Division II. So both of those guys they're splitting equal snaps in 7-on-7. It's a great problem to have for Liberty. Both of those guys looked really good. It's an interesting situation this late to be splitting that many snaps. Not really, because we saw Houston St. Thomas do it last year, but Walker, we've got two incredible quarterbacks down at Liberty. What did you think of both of them and the situation sharing snaps through 7-on-7?
I'm every time we go see them, you're kind of hoping, all right, is one guy going to show out and be the leader? But both of them are just playing good. Like, it's like they get equal reps. I think the entire tournament, they basically got equal reps, and they just showed out both sides and like made accurate throws, put the ball where they needed to be, and ultimately they never lost a game all 2 days. So it was just very, very impressive. Yeah, I think, I mean, Cole, some of those last throws in the championship game was very, very impressive, and you can see why he's committed to a Division I school. And Hogan also, like, I'm trying to compliment both because they both did really, really good this year. And it was honestly very impressive. So it's hard to like be like, oh, this guy took the edge or this guy took the edge, like in the battle, because both of them played really well. So like, I think we talked about it a while back in episode. They probably have the best quarterback room in all of private school. Like, it's not even probably close. And competition yields great success and pushes guys to be their best, and that's what's going to happen between them two. And we talked about the receivers, but on the defensive side, having Maddox, I want to say I don't know how to say his last name. I should have asked him when I saw him, but Maddox, the 2025 linebacker, and CJ Witten in the middle, like, they're going to have really good guys who are going to be versatile and can play the run game or also in the pass. It's going to be that defense is going to be really good. And you also have Brady Janusek going to be playing both sides at the safety position. Like, we talked about him, like, we said it at the thing, like, Speedy Nells might be the other guy, but Brady Janusek might be the best two-way dual threat guy that you can have in Texas private school next year. It's going to be ridiculous for having him on the defensive backside. But yeah, that squad altogether is going to be really, really impressive, and it's going to be fun to watch next year.
Absolutely, they will. I'm very looking forward to seeing how Liberty does throughout the rest of the offseason and what they come into with next season. Speaking of really good quarterback play, we got to transition to Houston St. Thomas with Dante Lewis. Dante is somebody we actually found out about and saw for the first time a year ago at 7-on-7 2022, and he's taken another step for sure. We know St. Thomas is going to be very good, and it's all going to start with Dante Lewis. Walker, Dante made some throws that were just absolutely ridiculous in terms of accuracy and length. What did you see from him, and what did you see from some other guys in St. Thomas that impressed you? Because they did very well.
Yeah, they're always a fun team to be around. They're really great guys, and they're very competitive. And they remember, like, hey, sometimes it's just a game, and we're gonna have fun playing the game. And like that's what I love in a team. And Dante's such a great quarterback, and every time I see him throw, I remember that. And I also remember how competitive that 2024 senior class is going to be. And quarterbacks, like, they're all good. All of them are really, really good players. And Dante is one of the best of them. And he is just, as long as they have him and then Johan right next to him, they're going to be very, very good this year. And like, we'll say it in our preview down the line, but they're one of my dark horse favorites for TAPPS Division I this year. They play the part, and they play it really, really well, and they use their strengths of their offense to their advantage. Having Larry Benton, having Luke Edgecombe on the outside is going to be so deadly for so many teams they face, and also having Blaze Cummington as the new tight end for them and he is yoked up and looks really, really good at the tight end spot. They have so many weapons on the offensive side, and they have the guys in the trenches to back them up. And then on the other side, Tyler Day, Grant Stewart shined all weekend long, and guys like, Tyler Day is always going to be the one that's talking and lead that defense, and for rightfully so, and he has the talent to back it up. And Grant Stewart on the outside, I think he had like 4 or 5 interceptions on the day. I think he posted it somewhere on Twitter, but he's going to be one of the best defensive backs in 2025. And you have Aaron Valentine as the safety position. Other guys on that defensive side, they're going to be a really talented squad, and they have a kind of a chip on their shoulder for not winning that district championship last year, and they're coming back to winning that district championship and proving a lot of people wrong in the season this year. So I'm excited for that squad, man. And with Dante at the helm, I mean, you have a lot of success coming your way if he does, if they give him the ball and let him go to work.
Yeah, I definitely think so. St. Thomas is always going to be a team that's in contention. It's just kind of a question of can they match up with the teams from the north? And last year they got shocked by Antonian in that first round game and are in that district championship game. Sorry. But I do think they've got a ton of talent with all the guys you just mentioned. That defense is going to be even nastier this year than it was last year. I'm really excited to see how they do. They were very impressive at 7-on-7, but they should also be poised to do well this coming fall. I'm trying to think where we should go next because we saw a ton of other good squads. Let's go to First Baptist Academy out of Dallas next. Hunter McCoy looks really poised throwing the ball. You think of Hunter more as an athlete whenever you turn on his tape, but you forget how well he can throw the football, and he really looked good doing that. Yet again, I'm a broken record saying it, but the guy that impressed me the most on the spring tour as an individual was Elijah Cason, the receiver from First Baptist. And all he did was solidify that in 7-on-7. It seems that every time that I turned to see what was going on First Baptist field, Elijah was just burning people for like a 30-yard touchdown. It was incredibly fun to watch. Caleb Mitchell showed out as well. I saw that they had Abuchi Godwin, one of the prospects I really liked on the defensive line. They had him playing receiver a little bit, so that was fun to watch. But Walker, First Baptist is going to be a team that is one of our favorites to go very far in Division 4. What are your thoughts on, number one, how they did yesterday? Number two, how do you think that'll translate into the season for them?
Yeah, I think they rival pretty much any team in the state in terms of receiver talent with Caleb Mitchell, Dominic Sadu Robinson, and also Elijah Cason. And having Hunter McCoy, one of the best quarterbacks in 2024, and in especially Division 4, come over to them is very impressive. And you know, TAPPS does an interesting thing for the 7-on-7 tournament where they put them in the pools, and then just the best of the best go into one, and then the winners of one go into one tournament and whatever, And First Baptist was one of those teams, a Division 4 team, made the gold bracket. First Baptist had to play the likes of Hyde Park, and they beat a Division 2 team in Hyde Park, and then they lost the Regents 48-32, which went on to win a championship. So they had to play really good squads all day, and they competed with them. And this is all about skill position. So a Division 4 squad will rival any of the teams in private school in terms of receiving talent, and it's going to be very impressive to watch them this year. Of course, the other team that did really good, not in this tournament, but in another tournament, Lubbock Christian is the other D4 team that we're going to have to watch, and Waco Horn at the helm with a lot of other talent they have. I can talk about that later in the episode, but yeah, man, they're going to be rivaling them for that top spot probably in Division 4, and they looked the part today.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of D4 teams, we also had a chance to watch Brazos Christian a little bit. And one thing that really stuck out to me was how poised Jackson Caffey looks for them. We didn't see him in the spring. They were letting Cooper Murr and is it Hudson Jacobus?
Yes.
And Hudson Jacobus just kind of show what they had. Jackson Caffey is definitely going to be the starter, and you could see why. At 7-on-7. What impressed me was how vocal he was. He did an incredible job of leading the team, telling guys where they needed to be, and just kind of keeping everyone composed. It was very impressive. Something that impressed me almost as much was his willingness and his ability to go out and play cornerback and play it at a high level. You don't see many quarterbacks going both ways, but in D4, I mean, you kind of have to. And talking to some guys around Brazos Christian, this doesn't sound like it's something that's only going to be 7-on-7. It sounds like Caffey's going to play some cornerback for them in the fall, which I just love. It's just getting your nose dirty, doing whatever you can do to help the team win. But Walker, we saw some guys like Jackson Caffey, Brody Garner, etc., Chance Locker make some plays for Brazos Christian. What did you think that you saw from the Eagles yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, they looked really good. And, with him at the helm, it's going to be a very exciting sight for any fans of Brazos Christian. And they showed out this game. I'm looking it up right now to see how they did. They beat Bernie Geneva, a Division 3 school, on the first day. They played a close game with the SBC 3A favorites, Trinity Valley, and lost, but played a close game with Brook Hill, a Division 2 team. So I mean, they're going to be a good squad for them. It's going to be interesting to see how they do for the rest of the season. And I think this is a good stepping stone to show, hey, we can kind of compete with some of the bigger guys. And if having that mindset where we're able to compete when you go into the season and go into district, that's going to be a really, really good mindset going into those.
Yeah, I definitely think so. So I've talked a lot about the main teams that I saw that impressed me as a team. Walker, are there any athletes that you want to talk about specifically that you got to watch that impressed you? I know that we put out a thread of headshots of guys that stood out to us and that looked good. Is there anyone that you want to talk about as an individual that impressed you that we haven't gotten to yet?
Let me. Carter Braw from Austin Hyde Park. We picked him in my fantasy, the fantasy draft we did, and I haven't been able to see him yet in person. I only got to see film, and he looks impressive, man. True 6'5", good looking tight end. Has the tools and tangibles, but definitely to be great in the run game. But he also was very athletic and running around. He could catch the ball really well, and that's what every time I looked over, they were trying to target him, and he caught most of the stuff that came his way. So having him at Hyde Park and the Hyde Park squad in total didn't look that bad. And so they're going to be poised to maybe try to fight for that second spot in that district and compete with the Regents. But yeah, I mean, that Hyde Park squad made the gold bracket in that tournament. And it's going to be interesting to see how the rise of that team is going to be for the next couple of years, because we haven't really known much about them until last year. And with Coach Dawson at the helm, which we got to meet for the first time, and he was a really good dude. Yeah, man, they have a bright future ahead of them. Like Carter Brawl is going to be one of the main guys for them.
Yeah, definitely so. I know that you're a big fan of Leighton Riviere from St. Dominic Savio. I know you
Yeah,
got to see him a little bit the last couple of days. Is there anything you took away from watching him?
yeah. I mean, it's always great because you can watch the film and you're like, okay, this guy's impressive, but then seeing him live, when he can back it up live, it's also really, really good. And yeah, he'll be one of the greatest, one of the best, quarterbacks in that Central Texas area this year. And he looked apart, man. He threw the ball really, really well. Helped Dominic Savio compete in a lot of games, and also having the new guy over there. What's his name? David Duplantier, the 2024 wide receiver, stands at 6'2", was also an impressive athlete. So with their connection going into the season, which you saw at the games that we're playing right now, having that connection for the fall, it's going to be a scary side for any team they face, and let's Leighton have a great receiving threat for the season.
Absolutely. I think it really will. I'll transition to Second Baptist a little bit. It was good to see Turner Murdoch coming off an injury, being back there and throwing the ball and throwing it well. It was always good to see guys get healthy and look ready for the season. Cannon Toon also looked very good. I'm a broken record. I'm a huge Cannon Toon fan because of that hit he took in the Fort Bend game and just how easily he popped back up as a freshman, mind you. So I think between him, between Jackson Powers, and between Turner Murdoch, Second Baptist is going to be very good next year. We were talking at Georgia's after 7-on-7, just kind of thinking about Division II in the South and who's poised to come out of that division. And I really do think Second Baptist is going to be one of the top dogs with that receiving talent, especially what they have in the trenches. So is there anything else about Second Baptist stood out to you, Walker?
No, man, they just like the way they went 5-0 on the day without JD Crisp is kind of impressive. And we talked about it. We're having, if Turner's the guy at quarterback and he looks great, and he didn't really get to throw much every time I saw him, because they had Kyle Morgan back there and they just let him run the ball, and he was very good, especially against Fort Bend. That was the game I got to see. But letting Turner probably throw the ball a little bit more when he's healthy, and having Cannon Toon on one side and JD Crisp on the other, that's going to be a scary side for any team they face. And then you have the running back tandem of Bryce Butler and Langston Davis. Man, it's going to be exciting times for Second Baptist this year, especially with Coach Bryden at the helm. It's going to be awesome for them. And Coach Bryden definitely is probably happy to have all those guys back for some of their senior years, to have a poise at the district championship again for Second Baptist.
Yeah, I definitely think so. The last couple guys I'm going to talk about are from Kincaid and David Capobianco and Miles Schroeder. David Capobianco is now back at the Kincaid School after an interesting journey the past year and a half, 2 years, maybe. I'm not even going to try to follow it because it's too confusing for me to keep up with, but it's good to see Capobianco back at Kincaid. First of all, I remember at the beginning of the year last year, I think it took us like 4 or 5 games of like saying that Capobianco was at Kincaid until someone was like, hey, you idiots, he's not on the team. Like, y'all need to do your research. But he's back at Kincaid. He looked good throwing the ball yesterday. Miles Rader also looked very good. He's one of the best defensive players in the SPC, not the SEC. He's also criminally underrated. He's a guy that doesn't get talked about a whole lot, but once you see him in person, you realize how valuable he is to Larnett's squad. Walker, between Capo and Miles Rader, anyone else on Kincaid, what did you think of that squad, how they did?
There's a lot of impressive looking athletes on that squad. And, I was talking to Larnett about it. And, it's so hard to lose a guy like Dylan Bell and Micah Bell these past couple of years. And so replacing a guy like that is you can't really do it. But with David Capobianco back, who's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the SPC, and also having guys like Nico Gomez, Miles Rader, and others, Christian Murray, is that his name?
Yes, Christian Murray.
So having guys like that are going to be very, very important for this team's success. And they might not have a guy like a Power 5 guy like Micah Bell on this team, but they have a lot of good football players on this team. And so as long as they have that and they gel and have that, great coaching by Nathan Larnett at the helm, I mean, they have a recipe to always be back there and compete in SBC 4A this year. So it's going to be impressive to see. They had a good couple of days at Waco, and I think they're going to take that momentum into the fall.
Yeah, I definitely think they will. All right, I've exhausted the list of guys that I'm going to talk about. Is there anyone that you want to hit on before we move into kind of overall storylines and thoughts from this year?
I'm going through the list. I'll just shout out a couple guys. It was good seeing Parker Joseph from New Braunfels Christian. We're never down in New Braunfels ever, so it's always good to see him, and he threw the ball really well that weekend. Your boy Jonah McCown from Brook Hill won a championship in the bronze bracket, and he looked pretty good. And besides that, Jacob Rosenthal from Bernie Geneva. I saw him throw the ball a little well, and then he would go and play corner on the other side. So it was always fun to see that. And also, I'll finalize with this: Luke Dodd from Fort Worth Christian, the Gunter transfer. We didn't know much about him, but seeing him out there was impressive to see. And with him at the helmet, should be a pretty good day for Fort Worth Christian. But besides that, I mean, everyone was I'll end with this: Jordan Rogers from Fort Bend Christian. Always impressive athlete, and I knew that he should be my safety because of how good he played the past couple of days. And your cat is very adorable. We'll end it on that.
Thank you. Caesar is one of the dumbest creatures that have ever graced God's green earth, but he's fun to look at, I guess. He's just a big lump. But yeah, no, all those guys are incredibly talented. It was great to see everyone on display. 7-on-7 state is one of the funnest things that I get to do every year. I mean, it's just really good. Okay, you can go down. I'm sorry. One of the most entertaining events, and just a big shout out to TAPPS for putting that on. They did a great job of running it. There were no hitches throughout the entire time I was there. So it was just very, very fun to mostly just see the entire community that we've gotten to know, meet new people, shake new hands, build new relationships. It was an incredibly rewarding day that I was there. And I think we made some really, really great relationships. And it was a really fun time. But that being said, we have some overall storylines before we're going to get out of here. One big thing that I wanted to hit on was the difference between this year and last year. Whereas last year, we came out of the weekend talking about kind of a shift in the balance of power. So we thought. We turned out being wrong, but hey, it's our job to speculate. But we had teams like St. Michael's and others that we didn't think were coming into that were going to be good, and kind of got tricked, and we're like, oh, these guys they might run stuff. They look super good. This year, it was more of a cementing the idea that the teams that have been good, that we thought were going to be good, are good, whether that's St. Thomas, whether that's Regents, whether that's Liberty. It's kind of a statement. The powers that be kind of made a statement that said, hey, we've been here. we are here. We're going to continue to remain here. And I think it's a big storyline for this upcoming season. You know, we've made it a point because of last year to never put too much stock into 7-on-7 because it's not real football. And as much as it hurts me as an ex receiver to say that, it's not. There's no tackling, there's no blocking, etc. But you can take some things away from it. And Walker, do you agree with that sentiment that it's kind of a cementing and a solidifying of the powers that be?
Yeah, I think for sure. I mean, the teams who have the most talent and have the most pedigree usually were the ones that kind of dominated these past couple of days. And with how much you can say, oh, well, they lost a couple guys or, they graduated to good class, they still remained this year. And you can just tell the continued, the culture, a lot of these teams, it just proves to be strong and proves to be competitive year in and year out. And it's impressive. And then like teams like Dallas versus Baptist, who it's a good day for those type of teams where they've been rising the past couple of years and are continuing to rise with the amount of talent they have. And especially in the skill position side, like we talked about earlier, First Baptist was one of those teams that kind of shocked, but also competed most of those days.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was great to see them as well as everyone else compete and just kind of let everyone know who they have coming into the season. That's always the fun part. But Walker, is there any other storylines or anything else you want to hit on? Because again, this was just kind of it's a quick recap episode. I think we're probably at about an hour anyways. But before we get out of here, is there anything else that you just wanted to say regarding 7-on-7 that you saw?
Yeah, I'll talk about Midland Christian and Lubbock Christian quickly from the UIL Dave Campbell's tournament. They competed really, really well. They did private school proud in those tournaments. I want to say Midland Christian started off the day, Thursday, with a win over Jasper, who is a very, very good 4A squad, I believe. That's a big win with two guys who are probably going to go play Division I football, high level Division I football. So a big win for them. And then I know I want to say they started off the next day beating China Springs in their tournament, which led by Cash McCollum, one of the best teams in SB's UIL. I want to say 4A again. So they're another good squad. And so they ended up having to play Lubbock Christian in the second round, which Lubbock Christian, the TAPPS Division 4 squad, beat the TAPPS Division 2 squad in the second round of the tournament, which is very impressive by Lubbock Christian. And they did really, really well. Welker Horn at the helm is the first guy. We've never seen him at quarterback. We got the legend Bax Townsend was the dominant figure there last year, and Welker takes over that role. And for Lubbock Christian, he has a lot of talent around him. Brady Simmons, Josh Rogers, Luke Lee, Matt Pascuzzi, as well. Some of the guys that were kind of standout dudes, and a guy that I was excited to see, and I didn't really know much about, the 2026 guy, Cooper Carthel, was a guy that stood out to me as well for that Lubbock Christian squad. Lubbock Christian beat Midland in the second round, and in the third round, they made the Elite Eight and lost to Pleasant Grove, which, I mean, is one of the dominant figures in Texas high school football. So never a bad loss to them. But that's a good way to show that, hey, these guys can compete, especially at the 7-on-7 level. As long as then once they get into the fall, bring some momentum with them. So shout out to Lubbock Christian. They had a good day. For Midland, Midland did really good, losing to another private school. But besides that, I mean, they had a really good day. Colton Newsom is a guy that really stood out to me. The 2024 athlete will play probably quarterback for them in the fall. But also played the safety position for them in 7-on-7. And he, very versatile player. Is going to be a big time player for them in the fall. Boston Rodriguez was another one that stood out. The 2025, I believe, athlete played safety for them and also played corner or safety for them and as well as receiver. And he'll probably play both sides of the ball in the fall. He's too good of an athlete to not do that. Avery Morgan played linebacker for them, the backup quarterback, and going to be fighting for that job. He'll be the good 2025 athlete for them. And they have a new running back from that transferred in. He was not there that day, but they have another receiver from Midland Legacy that transferred in. And I forget his name on the top of my head, but he was a guy that I guess grew up in Midland Christian, went to Midland Legacy, came back, and is going to be poised to be an outside receiver. Number 10, I forget your name. I apologize, man, but really, really good player, and has a little bit of moxie to him. And I really liked him, especially at the 7-on-7. You know, you love to see it as an outside receiver. So yeah, they have a couple guys that are going to be very impressive and are going to be definitely one to watch in the season. But overall, great day, good meeting those guys, because we don't ever really get to see Lubbock or Midland during the season or during off season as well. So it's always great to go see those guys. It was a great time to go see them, and when they were in my neck of the woods in College Station.
Absolutely. Hey, Midland, y'all flew us out to see a basketball game. If y'all would have us, we would drop everything and go to a football game in a heartbeat. I really, really want to see a home game in West Texas, and I think that would be fantastic. So that offer stands for Lubbock Trinity and Lubbock Christian as well. It's not feasible for us to get out there, but any opportunity that we can, I would take. But all that being said, Walker, barring any additional comments or questions that you may have, I think that wraps up pretty much everything we wanted to talk about. It was a fantastic day. It's state 7-on-7. I've already gone into my spiel on how much I enjoy it, but just know it's one of our favorite things we do every year. The path forward for us looks more or less like this. We'll have our quarterback retreat, the TXPS Media quarterback retreat at APR Ranch with Foster Sawyer. That will be July the 15th. That is something that we have put, I don't know how many hours and days of work into, but we're incredibly excited for that. That will be here before we know it. In terms of additional content, right when July hits, which I think we are, good Lord, we're less than a week away from that. Right when July hits, we're going to start our divisional previews. So we'll go D1 through D4 TAPPS, and then SPC 3 and 4A. But that's kind of the roadmap of what it looks like. And then after that, we're right into the season again, which it's crazy to think that we're coming up on it that close. But we're incredibly excited for everything that's up ahead. Just always know we have a great appreciation for everyone that supports us, and we just genuinely love doing this. It's why we continue to provide coverage. It's because it's what we would have wanted when we played and we were in high school. But all of that being said, as always, I am one half of your hosting crew, Wes Tolleson. Walker Lott has fantastically been himself. We will see you in the next episode. See you later.
3, 2, 1.